trying to help advisors that have historically not had access to provide alternatives to their clients to be able to do so truly with a fintech model where there's education, product structuring, distribution.
Is there a standardization too of contracts and things?
Yeah, the agreements are the same, and we help create the access for those folks to be able to get into these investments that historically they've not had that opportunity. And a big part of that is the automation of the technology to also facilitate what is a highly manual process.
I was surprised when we got together around the holiday time, you told me how many engineers you have on the payroll to facilitate all of this advancement in how people can interact smoothly.
Yeah, it's 1,500 people in the organization in total, and about
Amazing.
half are technology oriented.
Wow. So what do you see trend-wise in your space? Alternatives in fashion, out of fashion, but always seem to be a good set of assets that most portfolios should be involved in.
Yeah, it's really growing, and I think when you look at the asset allocation targets of most of the major banks, and the wealth managers, they're targeting 15, 20, 25% for their clients, but the reality is they're still close to 1, 3, 5%, maybe a little bit more than that. So nowhere near the CIO targets.
Yeah.
So very much a focus of these banks, so we're helping to try to facilitate that.
And do you give access to people who might not have had access before? That is the investors themselves? Because do you facilitate smaller pieces? And then the follow-up to that would be, I understand there's quite a secondary market developing now.
Yeah, so a lot of the minimums in these products are high, like $5, $10, $20 million, which even for a wealthy person, those are big checks to have to strike, big commitments to have to strike. And so we break that down and allow people to invest as little as $25,000 to $100,000, depending upon the product. So if you're somebody with $5 or $10 million, you can actually access this asset class by being able to put $100,000 into 10 different products. So have a 10% allocation in alts, but do so in a diversified way, which works for the portfolio.
So what do you see as the next step in your business? I mentioned that I heard that there's quite a secondary market. That is one of the objections that a lot of small investors would have is, if I invest in this private equity fund, I'm there forever. But now you can sell those, you resell your pieces if all of a sudden you have a liquidity need.
So we're trying to create that. When people think about, leveling the playing field, a lot of the focus has been on the way in. And not necessarily the way out. Now, by the way, these are inherently illiquid assets, and so people need to have their head around that before they invest. But there are things that we can do, just like an institution is able to sell in the secondary market some of their positions to the secondary funds and so forth. We think that type of market environment should exist for high net worth investors as well. So we're doing that both with creating the ability for them to sell. We're creating a marketplace, partnering with some other firms and working with some of the secondary providers. But also we're looking at using credit as another mechanism to provide people with some liquidity in these products. So
what do you mean?
Early days, so being able to maybe have people be able to borrow against their positions.
Yeah, because they like what they invested in, but they have a liquidity need, so you'll let them keep the investment, get the cash they need.
So we're working through that. All of that's in the early days, but we think, again, to level the playing field so advisors can offer their clients the same types of capabilities that institutions have is really important.
And what's next in your field? What's changing fastest? Technology is everything. As you mentioned, 700 or so people involved in the technology arena in your business alone. By the way, how old is iCapital now?
11 years old.
11 years old?
Yeah.
Wow, look what you've done in 11 years. Pretty darn amazing.
Thanks.
There's 4,000 families that are all awfully appreciative of what you've built here. But what's next for iCapital now?
So I think we're very focused on a couple of important layers to the story. So there's the fin piece I mentioned, which is structuring and providing availability in the right bite sizes for these investors. The second is the technology or the functional layer to be able to automate all the different pieces.
Reporting requirements
and so forth. Data management is a very important part of what we're doing and helping people bring all these investments together. Data itself is very, very important. But one of the big things for us right now is you think about the normal distribution of adoption, is helping advisors today who...
Because you have to educate the advisor too.
Education is so critical. And so making sure the advisor is educated and the underlying client is educated, but giving them the tools that allow them to operate the way they're used to operating. So analytical tools to help them build portfolios, which they do in their 60-40 world.
Yep.
We want to make sure they can do that in the alternative world. Very, very critical. But also allowing them to invest the way they want to. So today, actually, we announced the first model portfolio in alts. It's called IMAP, which is a multi-asset portfolio, which has credit, real estate, and private equity all in one package. So advisors can bring a model to their clients. And later this year, we'll bring out a growth-oriented model and an income-oriented model, and helping those advisors serve their clients.
Lawrence, you said that CIOs are recommending somewhere between 5 and 25% of a portfolio
Yep.
being in alternatives. When you look at it and you step back and you have all the data, how much better do those portfolios do that have those, let's call it 20% allocations?
So
over time.
Obviously, I don't want to generalize because people should make decisions individually.
Because there's lots of alternatives and alternatives.
Exactly, and it's important that you're in the right managers,
So
right?
could be credit kinds of things, income, real
Credit.
estate you mentioned.
All of the private equity itself, and as you know, there's venture capital, there's growth equity, there's buyout equity, so lots of different strategies, and some people will be more comfortable with some, but not others, right? So managing that, but what we believe is, if you look back over time, there's strong diversification benefits to investing in alts, and we think you also increase the return potential on a portfolio by investing in alts across all the different strategies.
It seems to me like you're, with the new products you're introducing, you're taking the pain of being locked up for a long time out of the equation, giving more people an opportunity to get exposure to this set of asset classes.
Yeah.
Because before people would say, I'm going to stay in public securities because A, I don't know enough about those things, I don't know how to get in and out, and once you're in there, I don't want to be locked up for 10 years and not know where I'm going. You seem to be leveling the playing field, so it's an attractive enough investment opportunity for people who would have been turned off by the lack of liquidity or the long-term duration.
Yeah, I would say though that many of the parts of the alternative landscape are illiquid, and again, people need to educate themselves on these liquidity characteristics. So there's only so much you can do to create a modicum of liquidity. For many of the investments, you do need to be prepared to be locked up for a long time. And that's okay. You and I are both Long Island guys, and so, if we all remember...
You don't sound like a Long Island guy.
Thank you for that. But if you remember the old Cy Sims when we were both younger, and his famous tagline was, "An educated consumer is our best customer." This is one of the really important areas.
So you're the
to be
Cy
educated.
Sims of capital.
I don't know if I'd say that, but I want to make sure that our clients are educated, just as Cy Sims was concerned about that.
Well, I'm thrilled for you. You've built an amazing company, and it seems like you're in the earliest stages of the growth opportunity in front of you. So, congratulations.
Thanks, Jeff. Great to be with you.
Good to be with you.
Appreciate it. Yeah.